What's going on, guys? This is a quick build video as per your request. I've not yet done one, so bear with me, and hope the information is all that you need is here. But feel free to drop me a line in the comments if you have further questions. I'll get right into it. So this build is focused around health regen. I'm an orc in heavy armor. It's a PvP Nightblade build. I'll go ahead and start with the stats right here. As you can see, this is on the sword and board. Weapon damage 1685. Stam recovery is currently 1429. Health recovery is 2310. And magic 1095. Max health 26672. This is without the imp buff, so it's sitting pretty high. Max stam about 25k. You could drop these 6 points into stamina, which is what I'll end up doing. Running the steed, it's the health recovery and movement speed buff. It works really well with your orc buffs or your orc racial passes, which I'll get into here in a second. Running tri-stat drink. Swapping to the dual wield bar. This is you get a little bit more weapon damage, sitting at 2k. This is unbuffed. Fully buffed with surprise attack for your shadow barrier, a tripod up, and your power extraction, your major brutality buff. Your weapon damage goes to about 2k on your sword and board. Your spell and physical resistance 25k. Your health recovery goes to about 3.3k rather. 3.3k health recovery, and your stam recovery goes up to near 1700. Go straight into gear. I'm running 5-piece Orgnums Scales. Currently it's V14. As you know, getting mats is incredibly cost prohibitive at the moment, so with the new patch I plan on upgrading these. 2-piece Engine Guardian for the moment. Also running 6 heavy, 1 medium. You can mix this up, 5 heavy, 2 medium, 7 heavy. It's going to be totally up to you and what you feel you need. I think I'm happy with 6 heavy, 1 medium. Every enchant is stamina, and in terms of traits, I've got infused on the large pieces when available, and then it'll be divines on the small when available. These are obviously going to be your luck. I'm also planning on dropping this 2-piece of Engine Guardian, and I want to run 1-piece Molag Kena. So you're going to get 1-piece health recovery, and then on the Molag Kena, 1-piece weapon damage. This build is totally a work in progress. There's a lot to finish it. Mostly gear needed. I'm pretty happy with where it stands otherwise. At the moment, it lacks damage. It's fairly tanky. It has some damage. It needs more damage. The 1-piece Molag Kena is kind of the crux of this build, and I'm missing it at the moment. I've got 3 pieces of agility for the Jewlery. 2 healthy, 1 robust. Obviously, all robust is better, as you don't need as much health as I'm currently sitting at. So robust would be better if you have it. I've got weapon damage, reduced cost, and stam recovery currently. I feel like recovery for this build is better than reduced cost. Typically I like reduced cost over recovery, however in this build it's sort of slower paced, you're not spamming abilities, you're doing a lot of heavy attacks. So I intend to change one of these I intend to change this recovery to weapon damage. I intend to change the reduced cost to weapon damage. Right now I've got this 2-piece of endurance on the sword and board bar. Now the shield is special in that it's a drop from the Imperial City Prison, and it's special in that it has health recovery of the enchant, which is not something you can craft. You can't craft a health recovery enchant for a shield. So this is nice, not required, but it's a nice, if you have it, use it. Also, it's reinforced. So if you don't have this and you go with crafted or another endurance piece, I suggest reinforced, because if you see the armor here at 3340, that's coming from a champ tree passive, which I'll get into here momentarily. Sharpened endurance dagger, and then on the back bar I've currently got 2 Night Silence V16 yellow for the most damage. They're both sharp, and this one's got weapon damage enchant. This one needs disease enchant. I've just yet to get the stones to do that, so that's next on my list. Ideally, when this is done, as I said, 1 Molag, 1 Engine Guardian. This will be different. This will be 2 agility, and then I'll run 1 agility dagger, and then a master dagger. And then on this one, I'll have an endurance neck with these 2 pieces here. So that way I'll get the stam regen on my sword and board, and then I'll get the weapon damage on this bar. And so I'll get the weapon damage from the 3-piece agility as well as the new master dagger. For the abilities on the sword and board, I'm running defensive stance. This is one of my favorite abilities in the game. It's a reflect. It's while slotted, you block 8% more damage, and block cost is reduced by 8%. Relentless Focus. This is your minor berserk. You're going to get an 8% damage increase from this, and you're also going to get 10% stam recovery. Normally, you might slot siphoning attacks here, but this build needs the damage, so I'm going to take the 8% where I can get it and use the 10% stamina recovery as a bonus. Surprise attack. This is your main source of DPS with the build, as it is with most Nightblade builds, I'm sure. This also buffs your physical and spell resistance when you use it as from the Shadow Barrier passive, and you want to weave this with light attacks and bashes. With the Shadow Barrier passive, you're going to have an additional 5k. Let's see. You're going to have that 5.3k spell damage, or spell resist and physical resist up at all times with your heavy armor on. Double take for the speed buff and the dodge chance, cloak, obviously, and Dawnbreaker for the 8% damage increase. I don't use this ultimate that often. On the sword and board bar, I'm using rending slashes. This is a dot you want up at all times. You need that constant DPS coming from this ability. Try and keep it on them at all times. Vigor, the only heal for this build. It's all you need with the health regen. Power extraction. I'm using this for the major brutality mostly. You could slot throwing dagger here to get the same buff. However, I like this better as it provides utility. It's an AoE when you need it. It pulls Nightblades out of stealth, leaving me room not to run Mark or Caltrops. I really like it. Ambush for your gap closer also grants empowered, fear, and incapacitating strikes, which I use on cooldown. Always keep the defile up, and it's a knockdown. If you play this build, you kind of want to play with your health hovering between 40 and 60% to have your regen up at all times. And if you're lower than them, obviously this stuns the enemy. I like this morph better. A note, you want to keep power extraction on the same bar as vigor, as you're going to get the siphoning passive that, what is it? This one, the Soul Siphoner passive. So you want these 2 on the same bar. This is going to make your vigor 3% better. It's not huge, but it's worth noting. If you wanted to run this build a little bit differently, you can. You can run the sword and board as more of a buff bar, and you can run dual wield as your main offense bar. And to do that, you simply switch these abilities. Now you've got your vigor and your power extraction back here to buff and heal and turtle up, and then you've got your main source of DPS here, surprise attack, and you can also run slash. This build works just as well without dual wields and sword and board. You can combine anything you like. I've tried sword and board and bow, and I really like it, in which case you're just going to drop this for poison injection. You can run it with a two-hander if you really want to. I like not being tied to it though. Just a few options. You can run double sword and board. I've done that as well, in which case reverb bash goes here. I love to have that ability on. In fact, these are really interchangeable for me. I use them both just as much as the other. Now in group play, you can easily slot Shoal Shred, Soul Tether. You could even do, Veil if you're running in the sewers. It's great. I need to and plan on testing this with Werewolf, which I just finished leveling to 10, and I need to start testing out this. I think the Werewolf will be really, really good on this build. Something to consider. Obviously, one of your passives, I'm going to go into what makes this really good. It's the Robust passive. Increase your health recovery by 30%. Orcs get this, and I believe Khajiits get this. The build was centered around this. This build kind of came about late 1.6. I was talking to Scribes and Lemur and talking about the forthcoming changes for 1.7 and what would be now viable, and how Lemur mentioned health recovery is going to be a thing. So I really kind of started preparing for that and building for that. And then when this patch went live, Patrick Scott, he's a DK running a really similar health regen build with basically the same setup on a DK, and it looked really cool, and it inspired me to put it together. So I've since been playing this for a couple weeks and really liking it. It's been successful. Works in duels, works open world solo, works great in a group. I love it. That's a big passive. Additionally, the armor constitution passive. This is what's going to boost your health regen, which is why you can go for anywhere from 5 to 7 armor pieces depending on how much you want to boost your health regen. This build is not specifically for an Orc or Khajiit. However, I think you can probably run this on, you could probably run it well on any stamina race. If you're a Red Guard or Wood Elf, you would just simply change, you would just, work more towards health regen. So instead of running 1 medium, you'd run 7 heavy. You could also spec differently in the champion tree and make it work just as well. If you're an Imperial, you could, instead of infused, you run all divines, and you're not going to lack max stam, and then you can push your Mundus a bit further that way. You're going to have to play with it and see what works for you, but I'm pretty certain it'll work on other races. You could also drop this gear setup into a DK. An Orc DK would be the best thing, honestly, for this setup. They would be amazing. Straight into the champ tree. This is how I currently have it laid out, and I'm liking it. I've got 20 into Warlord, 4 into Magician, 1 into Bashing. This is where my next 20 or so points are going to go for the green tree. 12 Arcanist, 62 Mooncalf, 30 Tumbling, 5 Befoul. And for blue, we've got 1 into Bless. You're not healing that much. Your health regen, I'll show you, buffed. So you're not needing so much here. Blade Expert, 14. 90 into Mighty, 17 Piercing, 12 Precise. Normally I like more Precise than Piercing. However, this is a low crit build. Still important, but not as important for me. Something to note is this passive. You want to shoot for that. Increase your damage 10% off balance targets. For red, 74 into block, 11 into resistant. Now this is what I mentioned, the Shield Expert passive, which is awesome. Increase the armor of your equipped shields by 75%. This is why you run Reinforced on a shield. It gets that over 3k, 3.2 or so on legendary quality. 11 into Hardy, 10 into Elemental Defender, and 28 into Quick Recovery. My next red points are going into split between Resistant, Hardy, and Elemental Defender, which I'll stack more heavily into these than anything else to be a bit more tanky. Also, you can go into Heavy Armor Focus. That I should also put some points into. That's it for the champion points. As I said, if you're not an Orc or a Khajiit, put more. You can drop some Mooncalf and put it into healthy, or drop some reduced costs and put it into healthy. You can bump up your health regen here a lot. In fact, I could put a couple of points here and benefit from it myself. And that's it. That's the build as it stands. I will be updating this build in the near future, hopefully right after the new patch rolls around and I get my Ancient Orc motif and my V16 mats. Questions, comments, criticisms, feedback, please leave it all in the comments. As I said, this is my first build video. I hope you guys liked it. Thanks a lot for watching.